All right, you guys, so in today's course, we'll be going over the off-road modification fundamentals. In other words, we'll be talking about different parts and modifications you can make to your off-roading vehicle.
That's right, we'll be covering the pros and cons so you can make an informed decision on what you want to do to your vehicle so it's capable both on and off-road.
And again, it's important to remember what your personal objective is for your vehicle, because that will play a huge role in what changes and modifications you want to make. All right, you guys, so in today's lesson of off-road modification fundamentals, we'll be discussing bumpers. Now, obviously, bumpers play a huge role when it comes to off-roading, but there's several things you want to keep in mind when you're looking at getting an aftermarket bumper or just a bumper in general. The first and foremost thing is, what is it made out of? Most bumpers from factory are plastic, which, as you can imagine, is not going to stand up to bashing against things or hitting just about anything you might encounter on the trail, whether it be trees, rocks, or anything else. Now, some factory vehicles might come with steel bumpers, but one thing you definitely want to keep in mind is how strong is it. Some of them are really thin and still might not withstand getting a hit. In addition to that, they might not be mounted well enough, which means that once you do hit it, although the bumper might withstand that hit, it might actually bend, warp, or even come up and hit the body. And we all know that body damage is something we don't want to experience. So when we're looking at aftermarket bumpers, you definitely want to consider what it's made out of. And typically they come in two options, steel or aluminum. Now, we've discussed in other courses and other lessons that there's usually two differences between those. And one of them is going to be, of course, your weight. Aluminum is usually more lightweight. However, it's more expensive as well. Whereas steel is going to be a lot heavier, but it's going to be usually a lot less expensive. Now, what the bumper is made out of isn't the only thing that plays a huge role. Clearance is really important as well.
Yeah, clearance is very important off-road. Bumpers can be aggressive or aesthetically pleasing, but you really want to take into consideration what kind of clearance you're going to get from the ground and to the tire. Ground clearance is the distance from the ground to the bottom of the bumper. Here you can see that underneath, we actually have a skid protection plate that will limit some ground clearance, but it's also protecting our steering components. And on this specific vehicle, it's also protecting the sway bar disconnect. So modular bumpers can play a huge role as well when it comes to tire clearance. These bumpers here are the exact same bumpers. This one has the modular end cap removed while this one is still on the vehicle. And you can see just how much tire you have available for approach angles and for getting up onto obstacles. Let's move to the rear and show you the rear bumper, how that provides protection to your body and departure angles.
All right, so as we move to the back of the vehicle, we can get a better look at how the rear bumper can play a huge role in protection, clearance, and departure angle as well. So if we look between these two bumpers, you can already see that as far as clearance goes, this bumper here is tucked high and tight up against the body, giving you a little bit more clearance from the ground, whereas a lot of factory bumpers sometimes won't because they're a little bit bigger. Now, in addition to that, as far as protection goes, it goes back to what we said at the front. You want to make sure that not only is it a strong material, but you want to make sure that the way it attaches to the frame of the vehicle is strong as well. If it's not, it's possible that if you come down and you hit a rock, you could possibly fold that bumper up into the body of the vehicle, and then you're looking at body damage. Now, as far as departure angle goes, it's very easy to see the difference between these two. That's where these corners are going to come into play. Now, departure angle, as you're coming down off of a rock, means that you'll have less likelihood of hitting the bumper or the body of the vehicle. And that's where you have this cutout here. It allows you to come off steeper obstacles without worrying about hitting anything. Whereas over here, you're going to have a higher likelihood of hitting stuff. So if you want bigger obstacles off-road, you want to check out something more similar to this. Now, recovery points are just as important as everything else. You want to make sure that your vehicle is fully prepped for recovery in case of a worst case scenario. Now, you can see with aftermarket bumpers, you typically have welded on points where you can put a D-ring such as this, and you can hook up a winch or anything you need to be towed out of a situation or pulled out of a situation if you get stuck. Now, some vehicles might come from factory with recovery points such as a tow hook. However, some may only come with what they would call a tie-down point, which those shouldn't be used for recovery. So you definitely want to keep that in mind.
Now, the front bumper is going to need recovery points as well. This here factory OEM bumper has recovery points, but if you're going aftermarket, you do want to make sure that it has recovery points welded onto the steel or aluminum bumper. And you want to make sure when you purchase a bumper that it's going to come winch ready. So all you have to do is bolt it on and it's ready to go. This here actually requires a winch plate, but the bumper is winch ready. You just have to purchase a winch plate separately. Whereas an aftermarket bumper should come with holes already drilled so you can add the winch, wire it up, and be good to go.
Now this concludes our lesson on bumpers. I hope you guys found it educational and you learned a lot, and we hope to see you out on the trails very soon.
Thanks, guys.